Okay, I wanted to show you how to make a bibliography entry in Noodletools. This is discussed in some of their help videos, but a lot of you are using web sources, so I thought I would just show you quickly how to cite a web source, also showing you kind of what you're looking for. So I'm going to open my Research Ben Franklin project. And from the dashboard, see how I'm on the dashboard, I could either go to the bibliography section right here. I could click here, and that would take me to a place where I can create citation, or I can just stay right where it put me, which was in the dashboard, and I can go down to the components area. This is sort of like a shortcut to the different areas of the paper, the works cited or bibliography. This is where we put the author, title, page number, publication date, publisher, all of that information, or I can go to my note card and outline screen, or I can go to my paper. So right now I'm going to the works cited screen, and I'm going to click create a citation. Before it will let me do that, I have to tell it what kind I'm going to add, and I have located a website that I can use for this project. So I'm going to click website, and I'm going to click citation. And if you'll notice, there is a sort of a slideshow right here. And if you are not familiar with what you're looking for, or the different parts of the website and all of that kind of stuff, you need to hit this play button and play this anytime you're doing a different kind of source to it will show you and tell you examples of what you're looking for, where the information might be, and also to help you make sure that you have chosen the correct type of source, because sometimes types of sources can get be kind of similar, and depending on what type of source you choose, you're going to be prompted to record different kinds of information. And so for that reason, it's important to know what you're dealing with. And usually it will tell you, if you decide it's not a website, that's this part down here. If you decide it's not a website, it might be a blog, a database, and you can go through each one of those things has its own little slideshow to show you whether or not you're on the right track. But I know that I have a website, so I'm going to click continue, and the form is going to come up for website. Now today is the day that I'm looking at it. So today's date is in here. If I were recording something that I found a few days ago, then I would want to change this, but honestly, you want to record these sources as you go. So hopefully you're just going to be able to stick with the date. Notice how it says the date of the e-publication. E-publication, that means sometimes a website will tell us when the actual article that we're looking at was published, and that is actually a very helpful thing. But let's look at my website. I located a website called, you can see in the bar up here, it has the URL. This is the American Philosophical Society, and they've got a list of their prizes, and it shows that they have a medal that's named after Benjamin Franklin, and it explains here what it is. And this is something, because in my Benjamin Franklin paper, I plan to talk a little bit about how he was a philosopher. This is a place where, I may want to say that, because of his contributions, today we have such thing as a Ben Franklin medal, and tell what that is and all of that. Now, finding the actual quote for that and deciding what I want to say about it, that is the kind of information that's actually going to go onto a note card. But what I'm looking for the citation is I'm looking for the publication kind of information. So let me go back over here. You see where the very first thing I'm looking for here is a date of e-publication. Now I'm going to look at this page. I'm reading about the Ben Franklin medal. I'm scrolling down. I'm not seeing anything. Sometimes if this is like a National Geographic or a newspaper or something, right here under the title there will be like an author's name and sometimes a date. And those are things that you would want to put in your citation if you have them. The goal is to fill in as much information as you can find. And so we don't have that. But what we do have is the URL, So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to copy that URL and I'm going to paste it right here. And I've got that there. And then notice how there's website and then there's web page. Now actually what I have here, I put this URL right here, but the actual main site here is just the American Philosophical Society. So like if I, if I just said that's what it is, it would give me just the general website. But I actually have this particular page that focuses on the Benjamin Franklin Medal. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to repeat that, the actual document title. And notice over here you've got help that pops up and it tells you web page or document title, look for it in a larger font, see how back on the page, see how Benjamin Franklin Medal is really big right here. That's because it's the title of this particular page. And you'll also see it right here in the URL. It goes, we have the society and then we have prizes and then we have the Franklin Medal. So right here, what I'm really dealing with up here, notice how it says here also, the 7th edition of the handbook does not require a URL unless your reader will not be able to locate the source without it. So you can, it depends sometimes. If I did not have this part of it, if it just took me to the website, the American Philosophical Society, I don't know, I probably could then do a search on there for Franklin, but I'm just going to go ahead and put that because it's always better to put more information than you need, and then you can, ignore some information if you don't need it later on. So I'm going to keep it, but I am going to go down here, and I know that the web page title is actually Benjamin Franklin Medal, and I could have copy pasted that if I wanted to. English translation, I don't need that because this is an English page. And then the name of the website, that is going to be just this big title up here at the very top. It's the APS, the American Philosophical Society. That's the name of the website. So, and notice how it says here, provide the name of the website or project, not the URL. So I don't want amphilsoc.org. I want to actually get this whole thing, this American Philosophical Society. So I'm going to write that in. Philosophical Society right there. And now the publisher. I've got to look for the publisher of this website, and I talked to you a little bit about this earlier, but we're going to usually scroll down to the very bottom of the page, and we find down here this little C, and I'm sure you saw this in the presentation that you watched on web sources. Down at the very bottom here, this little C means copyright, so this means, and notice how this is from 2013, so that's a fairly recent source. So I've got copyright 2013, the American Philosophical Society. So that is the publisher of this website. So I can fill that in here. I can just grab that and copy paste it. And notice I should have clicked over here and showed you, but this, as I'm filling things in, this is showing me where, like, this is what the website citation will look like on the works cited page at the end of the document when we're all finished and we've written and we want to include a list of sources at the end. This is what it's going to look like. So like where we have the title of the page right here, see, that's going to go right here. And where we have the title of the website, that's going to go right here. And that's kind of why we don't need the URL, because we're putting the actual title of the website. But then we're going to come down here and we've got editors of the site. Let's see if we know, if we can find anybody's name. We really don't have, anybody's name right here. Sometimes if we click on the About page we may find some things. Now this is really just telling us about the society, and I'm scrolling down and I'm not seeing, really anybody's name. So I don't have a name. If you don't have a name, you don't have a name. So you just have to ignore that part. But you're putting as much information as you can find. So this is a website, like so many, that doesn't really have an author's name or a date or anything like that. We're putting as much information as we can in there. And then an annotation, you'll see here if you click that, this takes you to a whole explanation here about what an annotation is. Basically, an annotation is just, kind of your explanation of what this source is and why this source is, a good source and that kind of thing. And I'm not asking you to annotate your sources, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to put something in there for your own information, you can, but you don't have to. We will talk about this box down here, include this source in my final works cited. We will talk about that when we get nearer to the end of the paper and we're ready to actually generate our works cited page. But for now, that's all we're going to fill in from that website. That's how we find the information. That's how we put it in there. But you see that it's a little bit more than just the URL. And because some of you are just putting the URL, and some of you are just starting a note card and putting the URL, and that is not enough. You need to start with this bibliography and works cited part of Noodletools. You need to be in here, and you need to, looking at the dashboard, I now have another entry. I started with 5, I now have 6. And now, if I want to make a note card from that website, I'm going to go back real quick. If I want to grab something here that says in 1906, the United States Congress authorized a commemorative medal to mark the 200th anniversary of the birth of Benjamin Franklin, then I can create a note card, new note card. And this is what I was showing you in class. You're going to go over here to your source list and you're going to look for that and see this right here, Ben Franklin Medal. That's what I just added. So I'm going to put that there, and I'm going to put the quotation right over here. I'm going to post it. I'm going to copy it, paste it. And then I like to go ahead and put it in quotation marks so that I do not forget that these are not my words. And then right here, this has to do with philosopher. And remember, you could use your topics you came up with on your skeleton outline to go right here. And you can change those later. But over here in the paraphrase or summary, I may want to write something as simple as let's see, the Congress honored Franklin's birthday with a medal, something like that. And then later on I can change that even more if I want to, but I put that. If I had come down here, I may say, I want to mention that this was a result of his reputation as a philosopher, something like that. And then I come down and I click save, and it appears right here. I drag it out onto my note card table, and then, like I said, piling, tagging, adding it to the outline. We're going to be doing all that later on. All you're doing this week is adding the site that the source, not necessarily a website, could be a book, magazine. You're going to add the citation, and then you're going to, once you have that, then you can take the notes. Remember what I said in class, you can have the most fantastic nugget of truth, but if you cannot document it, you cannot use it. And hopefully that will be of help to you. Thanks.